Um, Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, today we will be talking about something that has been discussed several times in the past: academic honesty.
However, this time we'd like to start a little differently. So here's the story of a man who was arrested for plagiarizing his work. Rajguru Raj Dubey, who resides in Thane, allegedly stole the study material prepared by his former employer and published it to tide over a financial crisis.
Mane, Dubey's former employer, approached the cops, following which Deputy Commissioner of the Police formed a team comprising of the Senior Inspector of Crime and the Sub-Inspector to investigate the case. Following this, Rajguru was arrested.
So you all are probably wondering why we're starting off on such a serious note. It's because not abiding by academic honesty can get you in a situation even worse than Dubey's. We see such cases very frequently, where people are arrested for copywriting, which all in all is a serious offense.
Exactly. And why do you think Dubey plagiarized in the first place? It is probably because he was never taught the concept of academic honesty at school. You and I are privileged to be learning about such a salient value during our time at school.
This also shows us the importance of having the right values from a young age. Not being educated about academic honesty right now could have a dire impact on your future, where you will not be able to differentiate right from wrong. As Albert Einstein once said, anyone who doesn't take truth seriously in small matters cannot be trusted with large ones either.
Exactly. And maybe one would think that cheating on a high school test or exam is inconsequential and may not have an impact on their future. But we are here to tell you that all in all, it can have serious consequences and most certainly can tarnish your future. Above all, it is a reflection of your own morals. So why create a habit of being academically dishonest if it could give you the title of a criminal, the title of a person who has committed an illegal offense in the future? And on that serious note, let us understand academic honesty at MLSI and why abiding by it is beyond imperative.
So let's start with the formal definition of academic honesty and what exactly it is according to the IBO. So it's making knowledge, understanding, and thinking transparent. In order to fully understand the technical aspects of academic honesty, students need to understand how knowledge is constructed and consequently their own role in furthering knowledge construction and building understanding. So this is what the IBO defines academic honesty as.
Exactly, but coming down to a more simpler definition that most of us can comprehend, we all are aware of the learner profile attribute that the IB has, and one of them is principled. So, academic honesty is part of being principled, a learner profile attribute where we as learners strive to act with integrity and honesty as we question, inquire, and act during our learning times.
So now we've all heard the word principled a lot in our years throughout MYP and DP as well. So what exactly does it mean? It's when we act with integrity and honesty, with a strong sense of fairness and justice, and with respect for the dignity and rights of people everywhere. It's when we take responsibility for our actions and their consequences as well.
Exactly. So we've been using this word integrity a lot, but what do you think integrity actually stands for? Please let us know what you think integrity stands for in the chat right now.
Or you could unmute yourselves and say something if you have to as
Yeah.
well.
Vidhi says to be honest even when no one is watching. Yes. Arav says the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Yes, most of you all are talking about how integrity is being honest or portraying honesty. Nishant says doing the right thing even when you won't get acknowledged for it. Yes. Aditya says self honesty. Yes. This is what integrity actually stands for.
So integrity is doing, so as a lot of you very rightly said, integrity is doing the right thing when you don't have to, when no one else is looking or will ever know, when there will be no congratulations or recognition for having done so. So a very simple example of this is when you're giving a test and you're completely unmonitored in a room, you have the option of cheating, right? But it depends on you. Are you going to cheat or not? Because at the end of the day, no one's ever going to find out whether you're going to cheat. So it all boils down to you being honest with yourself.
Exactly. So now that we have understood what integrity stands for, let's understand how integrity and honesty play a role in the IB. So there are four main aims associated with integrity and honesty. One, to cultivate an ethos of integrity, doing things the right way because that is the right way to do them. Secondly, to do the right thing even when nobody will find out or will know if you do the wrong thing. And thirdly, to consistently maintain standards. And fourthly, to build and maintain a reputation of fairness, honesty, and integrity. So these are the four main aims that we should also strive to achieve in terms of integrity and honesty when we are doing the IB.
Right, so moving on, now again, we have a few questions for you. To begin with, why do you think the IB needs to maintain standards? So, again, same thing, you can answer in the chat box or you could unmute yourself and answer as well. So, why does the IB need to maintain standards? Why do you think it does?
Yes, Yuvika Varma, why do you think so? The IB needs to maintain standards out here?
Because to ensure you need to have standards, so this ensures students also are that rigorous for themselves to put up something so they become something in the future. If you don't keep such a standard, the students won't be motivated to do as such.
Okay, partly on the right track. Anybody else?
It's in the chat. They have some answers.
Okay.
Vidhi says it's highly prestigious and needs to maintain its reputation. Ara says standards establish a baseline of which students can be given merit. And Rishita says to ensure discipline. Yes. So let's go back to the second question. Actually, I won't share screen. I'll just read it out again. Why does the IB need to maintain its reputation for fairness, transparency, and consistency? So that's the next question.
I think that's indirectly answered, no, in some of the responses that just came out. So we can move on to the third question.
Yes, yes. And the third question is why the integrity of the IB is essential.
I was actually asking a question. When you say IB, do you mean the IB program or the IB organization?
IBO, no, it's synonymous with the program and the organization, right? It can't be.
So, like, integrity of the IB, like the integrity we learn as part of IB students, or IB as an organization, whatever. I'm not really sure the words I need to use here, but yeah.
Why don't we stick to IB as a program?
Okay.
So is it why integrity as a concept is important for students to follow in the IB program? Is that what the question asks?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, like just seeing what the IB is about, essentially it's for, like being global citizens, about, learning to understand, different cultures and, being knowledgeable in general. And a big part of that is having integrity. If you don't have integrity, like all the other things like that you're learning in the IB are like the base is essentially removed. Because if you're learning things without integrity and you're passing without integrity, then are you really passing? Like knowledge gained and like tests which are passed by cheating. Yes, you pass the test in terms of just getting a grade, but really, if you look like within yourself, also, would you actually have gained any knowledge? Probably not.
So now, Krishna and I have been using the words integrity and honesty a lot. In fact, all of you also have been using it a lot in your answers. So what do you think is the difference between integrity and honesty? And what are the similarities between integrity and honesty? I think preferably you could unmute and talk about the similarities and differences. I'll stop share. What is the difference between integrity and honesty? And what similarities do integrity and honesty share?
That was a tough one, Koina. Even I had not got it initially when Miss Mona had shared this. Meaning, if I have integrity, does it also mean that I'm honest? And is vice versa also true? So, yes.
Okay, so one aspect which I think that they can differentiate is on like integrity implies like consistent behavior, like carrying your morals and whatever you feel, and like the person you are carrying that throughout. Well, whereas honesty is just like something absolute, it's just like telling the truth. And integrity is like having those strong moral principles based on honesty for a long period of time, not just in one instance.
A lot of useful
Yeah.
responses on the chat. Koina, if you want to read out.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just start from the top. Nishan says honesty is outwards, integrity is inwards. Vidhi says honesty is like a subset of integrity. Raya says integrity usually goes unnoticed while honesty can be shared. Yes. And Arjun says integrity is being consistently ethical or moral, whereas being honest can be momentarily truthful. Okay, yes. Anyone else? Maybe. Okay, maybe then I can just share screen back and like we can understand how they're actually different and similar. Okay.
So before I go on to actually explain like any of this, like I think a very easy example is you can be honest about not having integrity. Like you can say I cheated, and that's you being honest. But if you cheated, you don't have integrity. So that's a very good example, and I think it explains it super well. So again, integrity, you either have it or you don't have it. It's about credibility, trust. It's your choice, and it all boils down to you being honest with yourself as an individual. Honesty is more contextual on the other hand, and it's dependent. You can be honest, you can't have honesty. You can have integrity, but you can't have honesty necessarily. And there might be rules and norms when it comes to honesty, and it's an element of choice. So again, as I said, you can cheat, but that means you don't have integrity, but you can be honest about cheating, which basically means that having integrity is being honest with yourself, and being honest is being honest with others. So they both have something to do with honesty, but integrity is everything to do with yourself, and honesty is what you show to others. So I think that concludes mine and Koina's end of the presentation, and I think now we'll hand it over to Ms. Suzanne.
Thank you so very much, Student Council. It was a very nice start off on academic honesty and on what it truly means. I'll be taking over the part of what exactly are the consequences that follow. All right. And you need to know that, because tomorrow you need to be aware that what I am doing has a fallback consequence to it. All right. My question to you is, if a teacher suspects a student of producing work that is not their own, what should the teacher do? Nishant?
If the teachers, if the student plagiarizes work, what should the
All right,
teacher
but
do?
what do you think? So Atharva says do not accept that work. All right, very nice. Meghna Bhatia, what do you think so the teacher should do? If I had to, let me take my example. I had to find the work in my classes, not that reflects the student's capacity. Confront, that's a strong word, Arav. But so I'll tell you what we are going to do. Make the person rewrite it, okay? I can see some interesting comments coming in, and I'm going to share my screen from this part. And henceforth, this is going to be the rule at MLSI. So in case any student is suspected of collusion, sitting with another and deciding, okay, let's create one piece of work and both of us share it. Yay, lesser work for both of us. In case a student decides, let me take this off the internet, then I am going to use some fancy software and just change the words so the teacher doesn't realize. What happens? We realize that, guys, simply because it makes no relevance what you're writing. Okay, but there are consequences to the same. The first thing that will happen, the subject teacher will conduct a viva. For example, in French, a student is at a mediocre level, and suddenly in one of the exams, the vocabulary used is beyond, it's truly admirable. The teacher is very happy. Okay, the student has made superb effort, but we need to authenticate that that is the student's work. And in that exam, he did not use any external, or she did not use any external help. A viva will be conducted. All right, guys, those of you who think that, oh my God, but I actually did that work by myself and the teacher is doubting me, it's okay. Take it as an example of re-establishing your work with the teacher. Why take it as a punitive action? Okay, do not look at it negatively. Guys, we are in an online scenario. It's difficult for us to say, is this really Atharva's work? Atharva, do you mind if once again we just re-establish that this content is truly from you? And if it's yours, you should not feel bad, right? And universities around the world are going through the same thing. There will be a viva. A viva is an oral examination. In case, post the viva, in the viva, if the student does well, fine. But in case there are discrepancies in work, all right, differences in work, the teacher will inform me. I will inform Mr. Vishnu about this, because we are in sync with the IB, and being in sync with an board, an education board, means we follow the same practices, and we want you to follow the same practices. All right, there will be a written record, guys, and don't say, oh, there's a written record, what to do? I'll tell you what happens. That written record goes in your file, and when we are beginning to write our recommendation letters, we will look at it. Possibly we won't write that in your recommendation letter, but that would influence what we are going to write in the recommendation letter. When we comment on traits like integrity, honesty, quality of work, all right? In case there are severe cases where we find the student is again and again, in spite of repeated attempts, in spite of doing vivas, it's becoming an issue. It's a severe case, and we consider that a violation of the academic honesty policy. We are going to address it, all right? And just not me, Vishnu sir, Miss Mona, we will be looking at the student being there to explain themselves as well as their parents, so it is fair in its practice. All right, please keep a visual imprint of what I have shared on the screen with you, because henceforth this is going to be the practice, and we expect your support. And let me tell you why, how this is helpful for you, and especially grade 11. You're going to have a regular exam, which means eventually you will be in the classroom, which means that eventually you have to follow all of this. So let's get used to this right now. Okay, do you all have any questions regarding this far? Diya Nata, Ananya Agarwal, Lisa Das Gupta, any questions?
No, miss.
Okay.
So, miss, I was just asking,
yes.
If you're kind of saying that the student has plagiarized based on their capacity, isn't that kind of unfair to punish them because of that?
No, so that's why we are not punishing them, and not the punishment would be if I directly say you cannot get a grade. That's what I'm saying. The benefit of doubt is first with the student. Yes, the student must have put extra effort in for that test or summative. So the teacher just conducts a small viva, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm not going to ask you all the questions over again. If the student can satisfactorily produce it, and I'll tell you why, because of the online scenario, Nishant. If it wasn't the online scenario, you were answering in class, I don't think so this would have even been a question, right? Forget you, even if I was doing an online course, somewhere I could be tempted by certain elements. To avoid that and to ensure absolute integrity, there is a small viva. And is it fair to the students who have done well in the test? Suppose one student has scored almost a full, but because the student gained unfair advantage, they have done better or they are at the same par, right? So when I'm writing a recommendation, then what do I write? That person was in the top 5 of my class. And another student who could have been in the top 5 is not in the top 5 of the class, right? Normally, universities want to know the top 5 percentile in any subject, and especially when you're applying to universities. And you can check that with Miss Sonam also. So then is it fair even to those students who are genuinely working hard? And hence this procedure. So the first benefit of doubt goes to the student. There is a small viva. You are completely in sync with the content because you studied, right, for the content. If you're completely in sync, it's fine. Any further queries?
Miss, I have a question.
Raya?
Yes, Miss.
Can we see you?
Yeah. See me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we all understand the need to ensure academic honesty, and we agree on that part. But suppose you are doubtful of a certain student's work, and it really is their work, so you go ahead and conduct the viva. There's a huge weight on their shoulders. There's a lot of pressure on them to ensure that it's their work. So what if they crumble under anxiety or nervousness? Then what is the criteria for the viva?
Okay. See, if I'm stumbling, fumbling, that's fine. But I'm able to give an answer that at least is 60% reflective of my marks. That should be fine, right? I'm not concerned of how confidently you're speaking or how well. Or your English at the, okay, in the languages, it might count the language, but I'm not concerned of that. But can you, suppose you have used in my subject terminology like cost benefit analysis and break even. Great, I'm happy. But can you explain that? I might just ask you to explain the term. If you're able to explain it, then I know what you have written in the answer is fine, right? So it's simple. If you have used certain vocabulary, I can see Miss Darshana, and Miss Darshana's that is beyond. If you can just conjugate that verb or just explain it, that should be fine. We are not doing some intensive test and we are going to ask you extremely tough questions. No. Okay, we just want to authenticate it's your original work. It's okay if you're nervous and you say, can I just have 5 minutes of breathing time? It's okay, please do. Okay, we want to support you out here. We want to ensure the work is yours genuinely. All right, anything else, guys? Okay.
Yeah,
Quickly.
just one question.
Yes, Ara.
How retrospective can the viva be? Like after you've like given a test or done the assignment?
It depends on how fast the teacher corrects it, right?
Achha, okay.
Normally within a week's time, the corrections go back to you, right? So
Okay.
within a week, 10 days of that only. It's not like after 2 months, I'll take the viva, my God. All right, carrying on from this point. So what are the consequences? You'll need to know this. Firstly, in case the work is plagiarized and a student in the viva cannot get at least 50 to 60% of the viva right, all right, which will be based on the same work, not new information. They will not receive a grade for that assignment or that examination. If your work is academically dishonest, it will not be accepted, it will not be credited, and you will not receive a grade. Okay, so if I had to ask you, suppose you have done 2 papers out of which one paper seems plagiarized, but the other paper is fine, you'll get a grade for this paper, but your overall grade in the subject stands affected. And all these grades are very, very important for you guys. We will be putting a record of this in your record. All right. That's a very, very rare case to happen. And I don't see any student headed this way. I'm hopeful of this. So prevention is better. All right. Prevention is better. And how do we teachers detect? Because your next question will be, Miss, how do you know it's plagiarized? Are you sure this is plagiarized? Firstly, yes, the language is not the same. The language used does not match the student's ability. And we have seen this over a period of time that the student produces some work, but when they're given an outside assignment or something is happening online, the language is not the same. Second, you have not taken any help from the teacher, and this is especially for your IAs and E's grade 12. You have not taken any help from the teacher, but at the 11th hour, you produce something as if it fell from God. All right. Or it could not be so good, but then we begin to suspect you have not asked any questions. You don't need to know, but then suddenly where this work is coming from. It immediately pricks up our anti-plagiarism antenna. We have bought the software which we use for the school. It's an extremely expensive software. Even let me tell you this, every assignment, not the current homework ones that you'll submit, but most of the IAs, E's go through turnitin.com and it will exactly show you from which website it is plagiarized. So we definitely use this software to check. And I have already said this, no use reiterating. I think so it's quite clear with you. All right. So far, any further questions? Let me yet open the field out here for questions. Any questions this far? Okay, fine. All right. If you think that is the school, we are going to go down very heavily on this, guys. From this week onwards, any suspected cases will be subject to a viva. All right. And they do not require, the teachers do not require permission. It is just going to be something like, hey guys, we need to have a 10-minute talk on what you have submitted. Can we, if it's the same, we are not concerned, we support you. Okay. But the idea is to prevent ourselves from not being honest during online test. Okay. So please side us in this. Okay. And let me tell you what the IB feels on this. Okay, I'm going to share with you a scenario. You all tell me what should be done. This is what the IB says should be done. These first three scenarios. Okay, the first three scenarios are for grade 12. Grade 12. The first scenario talks about plagiarism without acknowledgement. They are plagiarized without correct. See, you are allowed to pick extracts or quotes from articles, grade 12. But what if you have not cited it and it has gone as an IA or an EE, and they also do an originality check? They have done an originality check and this happens. All right. Grade 12, I would like your comments out here. What do you think will happen in this scenario? Ritayu.
I mean, miss, if the work is not cited, you'd have a conversation with the student and allow him to cite the website if he could find the source. However, if one has clearly translated the text from another language, suppose in an optional language such as Hindi or French or Spanish, it is very, very evident, because once you're translating something from English, it's very likely that the words that are used will translate into something extremely complex and out of syllabus, which the teacher can understand. Hence, the Viva solution that the school has taken would, to a certain extent, at least for an oral examination, correct that problem.
Okay. I agree with you. But and if so, the students will be given a chance, in case it's yet internal, will be given the chance to cite their work. But if that work goes to the IB, and for some odd reason, that's why we tell you, don't submit your work at the end moment, because the teacher needs to check and she can point out, hey Ritayu, hey Arab, this is not cited, quickly go cite it. But if the work goes without citation, the IB gives you this lovely grade. All right. So avoid that. Okay, I can see some chats coming. Would be a bit. As long as you cited, Aditya, at least to one of the sources in from where you have seen it, that's fine. And you can put it in single quote marks. That is something subject specific. All right. And Nishant, no, we are not punishing them. If they have improved their capacity, that's a good thing. But we need to ensure that their capacity has actually improved and they have not gained an unfair advantage. Please don't mix up the two, sweetheart. I want every teacher, Miss Pallavi Sharma, Miss Darshana Jain, wants to award you if you have actually done better. Guys, please understand, if you do better,
absolutely,
you will do better.
I agree.
Yeah, you will do better in the board exam. See, for us, that's the ultimate thing, and you get into the university that you want. For us, it's very easy to say, oh, let it be, let their work go as it is. We know it's copied, but no, we're taking that extra trouble so that in the exam, it can actually be your work. You will get that deserving grade. Yeah. That is our main concern. My question is that even though I did not refer to websites, calculations would be available. Yes, it would be available online. And that's perfectly okay, Aditya. You don't have to be bothered with that. The same thing is even in the sciences, which would happen. There are certain general statements that would come, and only that much comes. The entire analysis will not come plagiarized. So even when Miss Vidhi, me, Miss Pallavi also, we all correct I's, E's and all that. We also know when the student has done it and not. So don't worry on that. Okay, just a few more scenarios. Now these ones go out to grade 11. You are found in possession of an unauthorized material during a written and oral exam. You are taking help from an outside person because now the exams are online, right? I'm not going to pat you down and find you, oh, look, you have a phone in your pocket. I don't know. But this is an online exam. And you have something that should not have been with you. Okay, grade 11, what do you think should be the consequence of this? And what do you think the IB does in such cases? Yes, Ananya Agarwal, I can see you raising your hand.
Question the student that why the object was with them when it's not required. Like, for example, why is your phone with you, or why is the textbook there when it shouldn't be there?
Take it away from them before they give the exam.
Or like even check the desks, like how we usually did during the start of the exam.
But at least in this situation, they can't control that. I mean, not fully. So I think Viva would again be like a good solution, right? Because you don't really know what the student is hiding.
So it's a bit of both. We will check your desk. We hope you are honest enough. And in case the work doesn't truly reflect your ability, see, we can understand you going a bit above your ability, but a lot above, that's great as long as it's your work. Simple enough, nothing else. All right. Okay. So that will happen. We will check your desk. We will even ask you to sit in certain positions where the camera, we can also see your screen and your desk. You'll need to comply with it, okay? What happens out here? The invigilator suspects that a candidate has unauthorized material. But say some other student has said, oh, you know, miss, after class, oh, you know, miss, I think so this person copied. Please understand that we will not support rumors out here, okay? So do not be scared that, oh, someone else has told the teacher this. What we are concerned is, and we will do it in our way to authenticate the work is yours, based on the ability of what you see. All right? The idea is the IB says the same thing. There should be no unfair advantage gained out here. All right? Either one of the invigilators has seen something, or we know that there has been possession of material because of which you can make out certain work. It does not reflect the student's own work, okay? What happens in this? What happens if the disobeys the instructions? Oh, am I sharing my screen? I guess I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. Sorry, guys, my screen was not being shared. Can you see this last point? The invigilator allows or instructs, sorry, I think so it was this point, disobeys the instructions of the invigilator. What happens if you all are disobeying the instructions? Please see what the IB says. If the conduct of the candidate is such that he gains an unfair advantage, for maybe the invigilator said, stop writing, you need to stop writing. Can you all see my screen? Can I hear a yes or a no?
Yes, miss.
Yes. Okay. All right. The invigilator says this. You gained an unfair advantage because you've written your answers, or your behavior has distracted others, or you're making use of material. All of this, please understand, this document is from the IB. This document is not something that I have created. And hence plagiarism is taken very, very seriously. There are over 40 scenarios out here of how plagiarism could affect your final grade. Okay, guys, please understand, I'm going to end at this moment, but at the end of the day, we want students who are principled. I know both the batches, you all are good kids. Sometimes we get lured by the shortcut. I would tell you, hold on to the right path. Ask your teacher for an extra class. All right, miss, can you help me write answers this way? How can I improve specifically, miss, my performance? What is lacking right now for me to get that grade? Do that, guys, because when the final exams come, there is no leverage except for what you offer. Another point is, if you think that, oh, I'll outsource my work at my IA and my EE, great. Please understand the IB raises a query if in your IA you've got a 7 and in your written papers you've got a 3 or a 4. All right, immediately a query is raised to the school. Has the student been unwell and hence could not perform in the exam? could you all please provide an reason for why there has been a huge discrepancy between the internal component and the external component? So please be aware of even this scenario. And we are trying to deter you from all of this so that the grade that you get is actually much better than what you're currently performing it. And a lot of you have very good potential. Okay. At this point, I'm going to rest. And
Suzanne, I have just sent a text on the chat box. This is, I think, regarding Raya's, because sometimes even if it's a 12% plagiarism in the Turnitin, it doesn't really mean a high score, provided we know what is being plagiarized. And
Yes.
teachers are discreet enough to determine. Also in my subject, it's a 70% external for standard level and 30%. So we should all resort to honest means.
Absolutely, miss. Thank you. All right, students, anything else? Any queries? Anything that you feel we should do from our end to help you cope better? This is your platform.
I think Koina's raised her hand. I'm not sure if she has a question or she wants to say something.
I had a question. Miss, this is a very odd scenario, but suppose we have a test and it's like a writing test, not like some project or something or like that. And suppose like capability wise, I'm a capable student and I cheat. How do you come to know I cheated? Because you could expect that kind of an answer from me. So how do you know I cheated or refer to something?
I'll tell you what. In that one test, it might not be possible. Let us assume, okay, I'm just creating the scenario further, that you're always getting out a 5 or 6 in that test, in your test normally, or in the way you answer in class, your homeworks are always between a 5 or a 6. But suddenly in every test, you're getting a 7 grade. All right. Maybe once, twice, the third time we'll be like, it's not corroborating with what the student is actually performing in class. And that's what would raise our antenna. All right.
Okay, got it. Thank you, miss.
But in the Viva, if you're able to perform, that means that's truly your work. You are actually able to do better in the written test. And I know of some grade 12 students who perform very well in the written test and they have done so in the school exams. So I know that these students study, possibly their technique is different. So that's fine.
Okay, got it. Yes. Thank you, miss.
You're welcome. Okay, Miss Shivani, I would like to hand it over to you so that we can close the session.